Glencore has an operation, it's called Raglan. And I spent 6 weeks up there and it was minus 60 degrees outside and you had to be on a tether or they wouldn't let you out the building.
Wow. Mark Sarah, what's the hottest you've ever been?
The hottest.
Family program.
No.
I would say, I guess Cancun. Close to 40.
Claude Gravel, what's your favorite restaurant?
In Chelmsford here it's Signatures, and in Sturgeon Falls it's Madame Binette. Can't get any better than that, especially Friday with their pea soup.
I know Lemonin. What magazine do you enjoy?
Maclean's.
Stu McCall, what's your best class in school? What was your best class in school?
Science.
Mark Seri, what was your worst class in school?
Science.
Claude Gravel, what are you proud of winning?
What am I proud of winning? Winning. I almost won my dementia bill. I'm proud of that. I once won a gold medal in a provincial brewball tournament. That's pretty good.
Won a couple elections too. And finally, Ina Lemonin, what did you have for breakfast today?
I had porridge with raspberries.
All right, so just a few fun questions for our candidates to get to know them a little better. We've got your questions now. And we're going to start with just individual questions directed to the different candidates. And you're allowed to debate here as well, candidates. So if you want to jump in at some point, there will be questions where all of you will be asked the same question. But if you have something to say about one of the other candidates' comments, you're more than welcome to jump in. But this first question goes to Stuart McCall of the Green Party. Green power is great, but how do you think people are going to travel to and from work on a bicycle at a distance of 40 to 50 kilometers one way a day?
I would not expect them to travel that distance on a bicycle, but I would expect them to travel that distance in a brand new long-range electric car.
All right, Mark Seri, given the recent charges against Jerry Lougheed, how can we trust a Liberal government won't be involved in another scandal like the sponsorship scandal?
Well, Mr. Lougheed has worked hard in the community for a lot of causes, organ donor, cancer. Mr. Lougheed is not involved in Nickel Belt. Mr. Lougheed is not involved in my campaign at all, ever. We have to look at the facts here in Nickel Belt. We have to look at what we're looking at to rebuild the area. So for me, that is not a factor here in Nickel Belt. The people in Nickel Belt realize that, and we're going to build upon that.
Well, I think what's expected from our community leaders, and Jerry Lougheed is certainly community leaders, is integrity and honesty. And what happened here is not good. But
what bearing does it have on the election here in Nickel Belt, Mr. President?
What effect? It's just about integrity. Integrity, and that's what we're not getting from the Liberal Party. Because when I went on the internet today and Googled Liberal Party, the second item to come up, the first item was Liberal candidates for 2015 election. The next item to come up was Liberal scandals on Google. So I printed that, and I have here 3 pages.
What about jobs in the area, Mr. Gravel? What about jobs? What about the
scandals, not jobs? Yes. You brought up the scandals, so we are talking about jobs, not jobs, scandals. The sponsorship scandal, the HRC Bondugal, Liberal fundraisers in jail. You know, I mean, there's all kinds of scandals. Paul Martin tried traveling on a private plane while he was finance minister. Justin Trudeau walking hand in hand on one side with Jean Chrétien, who brought us the boondoggle, the Gomery Commission, and on the other side, Paul Martin, who refused to fly the Canadian flags on his ships on his ship so he couldn't have to pay minimum wage.
We're talking
What
about
a
the
shame.
economy.
What a shame.
You've been an MP now, Mr. Gravel, for how many years?
7.5 years, I'm proud of everything I've done.
Yeah, let's talk about the results. Let's talk about the results in the municipal area. We can talk about these other issues.
We're going to talk about, I'm going to let the other candidates, if they'd like to talk about integrity. Aino Laminen, would you like to say something about the issue of integrity in this election campaign?
Yes, I would. The one thing I can say about the Conservative government is whatever they promised in 2011 to do, they've done. They have stuck to their word. So I think that's integrity.
I think integrity means Mike Duffy.
Well,
That's criminal.
I agree that maybe the Senate does need reform for sure. Those people are appointed, they're not elected. So perhaps there's some,
By who?
By
Appointed by who? By Stephen Harper.
and the Liberal prime ministers also.
Well, people want to hear about the economy, people want to hear about jobs, what we could do for Nickel Belt. That's important.
We're talking, the question was about integrity.
Stuart McFall, do you have any comment about the issue of integrity in this election campaign?
Yes, absolutely. I think that all politicians should be held to the highest account available to us. They should be honest, they should be straight shooters, tell it like it is, not trying to confuse people by muddling things around, which we seem to see a lot of. Those issues, I mean, we have to rely on our politicians to be honest, forthright, and open to everyone. Thanks.
We're going to move on to a question for Claude Gravel of the NDP. Can you tell us, and this is from an audience member, can you tell us why you're deceiving the public by saying that your dementia bill did not go through because of one Liberal vote, when the facts are that 4 or 5 of your NDP members did not even vote?
4 or 5 of my colleagues were paired off with Liberals. See what happens is when you go out of town, when you go on a sponsored trip, House of Commons trip, you are paired off. So, for example, Tyrone Benskin, who was in Germany, was paired off with a Conservative and a Liberal.
Well,
So
why
they
do you keep
neutralize
mentioning
themselves.
it?
They neutralize themselves because it's
You gotta
neutral.
provide leadership.
It's
not a
neutral.
bill.
It's
This was
neutral.
a bill that was easy.
This was a bill that was
should've
defeated
been
by
passed.
Yvonne Jones because she forgot to get up. She forgot to get up.
With this important
If
bill,
she gets
Rafael,
up, we now have
why are
a
you playing
national dementia
politics?
strategy.
How many conservatives didn't vote for this bill? How many Bloc Québécois? Why?
The
it's
Bloc
just
supported the vote. The Bloc
example
supported the
of
vote.
you providing leadership.
The
This is a
Bloc
good
supported the
example,
vote.
folks,
I had
of an
9
MP
Conservatives
not
that
providing
voted for the
leadership
vote
for a
The
bill
only
that's
way the
easy to
vote
pass.
was defeated because Yvonne Jones
What
didn't
about the
get up.
conservative?
Here,
What did
here.
you mention about a conservative that voted for it and then voted against?
I had
There is
convinced
a liberal,
9
yes.
Conservatives to
But be
vote for
honest
it.
with the
I
people.
needed one more.
Be honest
and
with the
that
people,
was
Mr. Gravel.
Yvonne Jones.
Don't play politics with this important bill. This is a very important bill. This
Very,
nation
very
needs,
important bill.
and you're playing politics with
Defeated by
it.
Liberals.
And this bill.
His bill.
We're going to move on. Why? Because we have a question for Aino Laminen. This is actually not directed to you, but I'm going to ask you it of you because your party is the governing party. And the question is, why do Canadians who may be abroad are not allowed to vote by proxy, but criminals who are incarcerated for crime against Canadians get to vote?
A good question. Canadians, I believe it's 8 years you have to live abroad before you cannot vote.
Five.
Was it 5? Okay. If you want to make that an issue, I will take that to Ottawa when you elect me.
They just changed it. Your government changed it to 5. It was
Yeah.
longer.
And how do you feel about criminals having the vote?
Which I don't expect.
They are citizens. Should they be able to vote?
Sure.
That's for judges, I think. I'm not a lawyer or a judge. I don't know what the correct answer for it is, but it should, whatever choice we make, it should be fair.
We're going to continue with perhaps the same sort of theme. The question to all the candidates, and we'll start with you, Aino Laminen. What are your feelings on gun control?
We have gone through that, and that issue, I don't know if we want to revisit it. Apparently it cost us, and I don't have the figures, an awful lot of money, and it was a waste of money. And the hunters, and in Northern Ontario, in Nickel Belt, I'm sure we have lots of people who want to be able to have their guns and use them for hunting. But the criminals are not going to obey the gun control laws anyway, and apparently criminals can get their hands on guns no matter how many laws we pass or how much money we waste on programs such as this.
Claude Gravel?
The gun registry under a Tom Mulcair-led government is not coming back.
Here, here.
Not coming back. The former gun registry bill was brought in by the Liberals, and it is not coming back regardless of what the Liberals and the Conservatives say. If that bill comes back, it will be under their leadership. It will not be under Tom Mulcair's leadership.
Here, here.
Mark Serry of the Liberal Party.
Obviously, as a society, we need to be conscious about gun control. We have thousands of individuals that are killed every day by guns. It is an important issue. The gun registry itself was not necessary and should not be brought back. There's no doubt about that. So there's not an issue of playing politics. I mean, we could look at Mr. Gravel's record on the gun registry voting
Go
for
ahead,
it and
look at
voting
it.
against it.
Look
Well,
at
I
it.
have very clearly, Mr.
Good,
Gravel.
good, good. I'm
And,
glad you did.
Yeah, and we could talk about it a
And
bit
don't
more.
forget, C-61 was a Liberal bill.
Yeah,
You
so,
just said it was not a good bill, so,
correct. It was not.
well, it's a Liberal bill.
It was years ago, Mr. Gravel. So
Doesn't matter. Liberal bill.
Stop playing politics with that. It's a very important issue.
This is a political debate.
Definitely. When you look at gun control versus gun registry, and what did you say to the community about the gun control bill?
I said that I was going to vote against or for the gun registry. I changed my mind after speaking to the RCMP. Listen. I spoke to the RCMP, I spoke to the OPP, I spoke to the Sudbury Regional Police, and I had a call from the deputy chief here in Sudbury, and that is when I changed my mind. That is when I changed my, no other time. That was a tool in their toolbox. And I got an email from a police officer, a lady police officer, who wrote to me and said, at the end of the day, all I want to do is go home to my two boys. That's how why I changed my mind. And if it was to happen again today, I would do the same thing.
Mark Serry, you want to respond to that before we listen?
Well, obviously, this bill under a Liberal government, as indicated, is not going to come back. But we do have an opportunity here as a government, as an MP, to look at gun control. So that is an important issue that we need to look at, and we need to focus on that issue. And that's something that we need to look at in the future.
Stuart McCall for the Green Party, gun control.
Yes, gun control I think is really, really important. I don't see there's any need for us to have the ability to own AK-47s, for one thing. You don't use those when you go hunting. So I think what we need to do is to maybe toughen up the border inspections with our neighbor to the south and make sure some of these illicit guns don't make it into Canadians' hands.
So, did I hear Mark Serry correctly when he said we need gun control? Did I hear that correctly? We need gun control? Is that what you said?
We need to focus on...
You need gun control, so that what gun control is the gun registry.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Come on.
That's what the Liberals
Mr. Moncler, your leader has gone to Quebec. Don't you remember Marc Lépine? Okay, you remember that? That's an important issue to deal with.
Very, very important.
So what are you saying, Mr. Gravel?
I'm saying under
What are
the
you
leadership
saying?
of Tom Mulcair, the gun registry is not coming.
Well, he's
back.
already on record as saying he supports it in
So,
Quebec and
Don't
French. He
say
said in
that,
French.
don't say that.
So what are we going to do with all this data that was collected?
We're going to move on. Okay. To Canada Post, which a number of people ask questions about Canada Post. And I guess it only makes sense to start with Aino Laminen of the Conservatives. Why didn't the Government of Canada consult Canadians on their plan to eliminate door-to-door delivery? And why does the Conservative Party want to close a rural post office? There's a series of questions about Canada Post.
I believe it's with the internet taking over a lot of our correspondence. The amount of mail, I know I'm very fortunate to get home delivery right now, but my mail has been way cut down to like a few envelopes a week. So perhaps it's not very prudent to keep putting a lot of money into something that is not needed so much now. And if I get delivery 2 or 3 times a week, I'm happy with that. And there is a community mailbox around the corner, which I will need to walk to when that's done. But I think that's a financial issue.
Stuart McCall, what do you think?
Yeah, well, like Canada Post, I mean, let's put it this way, first of all, and do a comparison here. We are the only G7, G8 country in the world now that does not have door-to-door service. And this is a travesty. I would restore door-to-door service, and it would make the lives of our seniors much easier instead of having to go to the corner post box, which, by the way, don't even work half the time, and access their mail that way.
Mark Sarre, the Liberal Party.
Well, the Liberal Party has been clear on this issue. With the Liberal government being elected, we need to, one, is take a step back and study the issue. We need to stop the closures that have been happening right now. We need to look at discussing this with the local community. We need to look at with seniors. We need to sit down with the disability community to see what are the issues that we could do. Obviously, from a revenue perspective, and you're looking at Canada Post, there are discussions that are needed. We need to sit down with the workers, we need to sit down with the union to look at alternatives. And we need to do that in a way that is proactive and consultative with all the groups involved.
And Claude Gravel of the NDP.
Thank you. I think the question was consulting. Stephen Harper didn't consult with the Canadians, and I think consulting is not in Stephen Harper's DNA. It doesn't consult with anybody. The only year that Canada Post lost money was the year that the Conservative government locked them out. Other than that, they've been profitable year after year after year. We will reverse the cuts to Canada Post. We will replace the board members. Canada Post has a CEO who makes millions. He has 22 vice presidents. 22! Who else has 22 vice presidents in this country?
Maybe the
Other than
unions.
Canada Post. Who else? Nobody. So we will replace that. And there's the issue of banking in Canada Post. And why aren't we banking in Canada Post? Because there are 4 members on the board who are bankers. So they don't want to bank at the post office. It would take away from their business. But it would make Canada Post more profitable, even though it's profitable now. And it's not only about home delivery, it's about the price of stamps. They've gone from 50 cents, 51 cents to 89 cents under Stephen Harper's plan. This affects every Canadian. This affects every business. That's why businesses are having a hard time, and that's why we're going to reduce their income tax from 11% to 8%, to 9%, sorry.
I understand that Canada Post was not efficient and was losing money. Is that correct?
Only 1 year when they were locked out. Only 1 year. Other than that, they're making millions.
I don't have enough. I don't have an exposure to the intricacies of that. I'd have to do more research, but
I've got a question for each of the candidates, and this member of the audience says, I'm worried about our democracy. I want someone who will stand up for his or her constituents, not his or her leader. Who would be willing to vote against a bill supported by his or her leader and not his constituents? Example, gun control, abortion, trade deals. Would you be willing to stand up against your leader and your party? Claude Gravel.
Well, that's a hypothetical question because we don't know what the vote is on. So we as members of the NDP caucus are allowed to vote along our conscience during private members' bill. So we've done that quite often. And if it's not something that is in our constitution, we are free to vote any which way we want.
Mark Sarre, would you vote against your party and leader?
I think it's very important as an MP for Nickel Belt to look at the issues, to look at what the people have said, to look at your morals, to look at what you believe in. If it means going against a party, then yes. There are times that need to happen. The other part you need to be clear about, is within the caucus, you need to provide leadership, you need to be providing a lot of, like I said, leadership to influence decisions that are made within the caucus. Leadership that are made within the minister's office or within the House of Commons. So, in extreme circumstances, but generally, what we do, and everyone here at the table has worked hard, and in any of the businesses that they've been in, and you've been in businesses yourselves, in organizations, and there are some times that you do not agree with your boss, you do not agree with your employer, and what do you do? You lobby internally, you work hard, you try to influence and make that decision. And at the end of the day, you have to live with the decision that you make.
And Stuart McCall of the Green Party.
Yes, Elizabeth May has made it very clear to her candidates that party whips are not required within the Green Party at all. We are free to vote in a free vote and anytime we wish. And it's particularly important when you are dealing with issues in your own constituency. If you believe that something is not right in your constituency, you're perfectly fine to vote against it.
I know Laminin of the Conservatives.
Yes, the Conservative Party does a lot about voting according to conscience on certain issues. And if I felt strongly about an issue, yes, I would vote against it.
And here's one of those issues. This is for each of the candidates. What's your view and beliefs about abortion, pro-life, and euthanasia? So Mark Serre, we'll just focus on pro-life right now.
Well, the pro-life is a very important question, and it has, the Supreme Court has made it clear many years ago of the women's right to choose. And that's something that from a Supreme Court decision I support, the charter, so we need to look at. But there are elements as an MP, as a leader that you could do to influence education to young mothers. We need to look at providing organizations some funding, to look at giving that education so that people have the choice, people have options. And that's, for me, I support the Supreme Court decision, and I support our party's position on that.
Stuart McCall of the Green Party.
Yes, I am sort of waffling on this issue because there's something to be said a little bit because, yeah, pro-life is a good approach, but what if there are medical situations or financial problems or anything along those lines where a mother cannot possibly look after her offspring, okay, especially in a medical situation. So therefore I would leave a window or a door opening there for extenuating circumstances, you might put it that way.
I know Laminin of the Conservatives.
Personally, I am pro-life, but I would never want any woman criminalized on this issue.
And Claude Gravel of the NDP.
Well, our stand with the NDP is quite clear. We've been, for many, many, many years, let the women decide for themselves what they want to do. MPs in Ottawa to decide what a woman should do with her body. We want the women to respect their body, but also to take the decision.
All right, then I'll say with the euthanasia, or perhaps better phrased as right to die, Stuart McCall of the Green Party.
I think if people are in extreme pain and they know they're reaching the end of their lives, they no longer feel that they're being a contribution to society. Maybe they've lost friends and relatives, and it puts them in a pretty bad position. So. Yeah, I think people should have the right to die in dignity, and Doctor-assisted suicide is fine. I don't really have any problems with that, really.
Claude Gravel of the NDP.
Well, I'm of two opinions on this. If I was to vote tomorrow on this issue, I don't know which way I would vote.
Yeah.
I lost my mom in 2003, and she died I don't know if I can say a painful death, but it wasn't an easy death. I lost my father in September of last year, and he died a very, very peaceful death because he got the proper palliative care. And that's where we should be focusing our efforts, on palliative care, to make sure that anyone who is ill, very seriously ill, gets the proper palliative care.
Here, here.
I'm like my colleague here. I agree that palliative care is the answer for someone who's asking for suicide. I don't know what the right answer is there. I'm still studying this issue.
And Mark Sarre of the Liberal Party.
Well, I think all the members here agree probably on this issue, and I'll echo the sentiments on palliative care. Obviously, there's a lot of more that needs to be done on that issue, and I support if under circumstances, and I don't have all the details of the bill, and there's going to be more debate when Parliament resumes on this issue, to look at the right to die with dignity. So I think under proper circumstances, I obviously would say, in my case, I would support the right to die with dignity. But there's no doubt we all agree here that we need more help, we need more support, we need more cooperation with the provincial government on the healthcare system, and that needs to happen very quickly.
All right, this next topic may be something that you can get involved in a little bit of debate about. What are some of the looming consequences of climate crisis, and is Canada doing its fair share globally? Stu McCall, we may as well start with you with the Green Party.
Sure, absolutely. I just was hearing a news report this morning from our former Bank of Canada president, Mark Carney. And his report basically said the greatest crisis facing the world economy right now is climate change. We are seeing massive decreases in production of food. We're seeing people starving, those kinds of things. So I encourage you all to really think about voting Green on these issues. Because if we don't take some action now, it may be too late. We may very well be at the tipping point.
Mark Sarre of the Liberal Party.
Obviously, I agree with Stuart on this point on climate change. Action is needed now, and we have an opportunity here in Nickel Belt to be a leader in this area too. We have a lot of, as I mentioned earlier, about the institutions that we do have here that could provide a lot of leadership. But we need to sit down with those organizations, and obviously from a national perspective, and I'll let other candidates talk about obviously Mr. Harper's record on this, but clearly from a climate change, time is now. Now is the time to take action. And the Liberal Party, as I mentioned earlier,
How
we're
are we
looking
going to do
at,
that?
yes, well that's why we're looking at investing, and we're looking at what we talked about earlier about a modest deficit in the next 3 years to tackle some of these issues today, not in 4 years from now, not in 8 years from now.
Excuse me,
The
climate
NDP government
change can be
The party.
affordably achieved with a simple redirection of the existing taxes. Okay, so don't tell me that's other than the case, because it's very true. A small shift in where our tax money goes can help us fight climate change really quickly. And not just this $10 billion or $8 billion deficit. We need to put a lot more money into researching. We need a lot more money into investment in manufacturing and employing people. And climate change is the new economy. So let's embrace it.
Heino Lemon, the question was, is Canada doing its fair share globally? As a representative for the Conservatives, what's your response to that?
I believe we've just started on this path and we need to do more. But I think climate change needs to be tackled also from the ground up. I hope most of us are recycling, reducing, and using the blue box. And that's where it starts. In education in the schools, it's a serious threat. I'm very much concerned about the environment. And I will, if elected, I will take these concerns to Ottawa for all of Nickel Belt.
Claude Gravel of the NDP.
Well, yeah, I think green energy is very important, and I think we should concentrate our efforts in the urban areas like Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Montreal, because it's very easy in those areas to get public transportation. There is no public transportation in Sturgeon Falls. There is none in Gogama. So what we should do in the north is start building a green economy by building windmills and solar panels. In a study we had at the Natural Resources Committee, it was proven that China is ahead of us in producing green energy, solar panels and windmills, and that's an opportunity we can take care of in Northern Ontario.
So why can't Canada be the world leader in green technology? Why can't we be the go-to country for those kinds of things, rather than losing the jobs that are now being done offshore?
I can tell you in 2 words why we can't. Stephen Harper.
I'm Would you like to respond to that?
I didn't actually hear you. I think this is an unfair statement, and I think we've done a reasonable job, and more needs to be done. I agree, but we have started, and there are initiatives in new green energy. I think of it as a personal responsibility for myself. You know, I'm looking for the next car that uses very little gas or none, and that's how I work on that, and I will certainly push for that if I am elected.
Well, that's the important part here in Nickel that we need to do. We have the institutions. We need to provide leadership. You know, this is where, as an MP, you need to gather the business community. You need to work with the municipalities. You need to work with the post-secondary institutions. I will commit to do this, a round table every 2...
government to lead the way.
Keep referring to the government, Mr. Gravel, you know, and that's important.
Yeah.
But even as
That's why I keep referring to it.
even as an opposition member, Mr. Gravel, I'll look at Ray Bonnet and the audience here. He was not in government all this time. At the time that he was an MP, he was in opposition, and he lobbied bureaucrats, he lobbied government officials, he lobbied departments in the federal government, and he also...
What did he bring?
He brought a lot to this area,
What did he bring?
Gravel.
What did he bring?
Brought a lot.
What?
Look at this Team Nickel Belt, businesses.
Would you like a list?
Yeah.
Would you like the list of the
Gravel.
liberal scandals?
Scandals again, Mr. Gravel. Let's talk to the people. Let's talk to the people about jobs. Let's talk about innovation. Let's talk about technology. I know maybe you can't talk about those areas, so you don't have the expertise to do that. But we need to focus on that. We need to focus on innovation, technology, to be able to look at the new economy, to look at green energy, and we need to do that in cooperation with the business community, as Ray was doing.
Yes, agree.
You know, that was happening in the past.
Here's a great idea for you. In Sudbury here, we are great at drilling holes in the ground. Okay, so, and if you've ever been in the bottom of a mine, you know it's very hot down there.
Been there.
Okay, so have I, Claude, so have I. I worked there for about a 6-week period underground. But anyway, yeah, I didn't like it too much. But anyway, the point is that we can assist mining companies by encouraging them to produce some of their own energy for cooling and for heating. And if we drill down a little further, since we're so good at it, then we should be able to get enough heat to create low pressure steam. Now, that would be a big boon for the operating mines and for the companies that are here.
These are examples of new ideas.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
good.
New ideas.
New ideas. That's what we need.
That's what we need.
We need new ideas in Nickel Belt. We need to push and focus and get people together. We need to have roundtable discussions with municipalities.
Just want to hear from Aino Lamanov just to get your thoughts on this.
We need innovation for sure, ideas. I don't know how we could encourage our young people.
Come and talk to me. I got $1 million.
All right, I'll do that. We need innovation in this area, and yes, for definitely we need to work harder than we have in the past.
Another question is about trust. Why should I trust your party? to each of the candidates. And let's start with Claude Gravel, I guess.
Well, you can trust the NDP because we are the party for the people. And we will govern Canada with integrity, not by scandals. We will have a high standard of integrity for every one of our single MPs and ministers. And we will not have scandals like we've had scandals in the past.
Aino Laminen of the Conservatives.
From the 2011 election, there were 107 promises made by the Conservative government. 106 of those have been fulfilled. They mean what they say and they will stick to their word. And as an MP, I will work very hard and I will promise you that I will be honest and not abdicate.
And Stuart McCall of the Green Party. Why should people trust you and your party?
Well, one of the main reasons is that we publish all of our election expenses so everybody can see them instead of hiding them away like others do. That's a very important part of the Green Platform, is that we want to be as open and as trustworthy as we possibly can. And this is just one little piece that comes into the trust issue. If you can't trust your MP, then who can you trust? So we'll leave it at that.
Mark Sari of the Liberals.
Thank you for the question, and very good question. I'm 48 years old. I've been in business. I want to work with the community. I want to work with the stakeholders. I want to work with the municipalities. I want to work with the business community. I want to work with the province. This is very important that we take a step back here and look what's the priorities of the community. Look at the priorities of the municipalities. Look at the priorities of the business community. We have examples here in the past, Team Nickel Belt. We have a list of businesses here. We have examples of trade missions to Voisey's Bay.
The question is trust, isn't it?
And that's the trust. Yes, the trust. We're going to have this happen. We're going to make this happen. And when you look at the Liberal Party and the platform that we put in place, it's very comprehensive. And I believe in innovation. I believe in technology. And I believe that I will deliver. And I believe that we are going to commit to making a difference in Nickel Belt. And that's the trust, and that's where my commitment to you in Nickel Belt will happen. And the Liberal Party has costed out. Mr. Gravel will talk about the NDP, and I'll let the analysis and the folks here in the hall look at the research, look at the analysis, the NDP plan utilizing the Harper budget to balance the books this year. There will be no monies, and the NDP is not clear on how and where they will cut. We've been honest.
Claude Gravel, do you want to respond to
looking at that.
Well, we know where that money's coming from. It's going to come from the corporations, the billions of dollars that the Conservative government has given to the corporations. A bank company that needs substantial... What's that? I didn't hear you, I'm sorry. But anyways, do you know of any banks who need money from the government? No. Do you know of a
We're talking about jobs.
Gas company that needs money from the government?
They need gas plants.
Gas plants. If the gas companies need money, they just jack up the price. That's all they do. And we've seen that quite clearly here in Nickel Belt. When they want extra money, they jack up the price. That's all they do. And they don't need subsidies. So that's where the money's going to come from to pay for our promises.
Where's that?
Our promises are quite clear. Quite clear.
We're going to move on to one
Can you
final
explain
question.
this? 6.5 billion?
One final question, which I feel somewhat uncomfortable asking, but what have you and your party done to protect the CBC? It came from someone. And Mark Sari, you can start.
Well, at Radio Canada, CBC is an institution in Canada. As a public broadcaster, we have many examples across the world, the importance of having a public broadcaster, especially in areas like Nickel Belt, especially in areas like Northern Ontario, in areas across Northern Ontario that have less access to mainstream and reporting, but obviously from a CBC perspective, and I'm proud to say that in 1971, my dad was the first. He brought a petition of 20,000 names to Ottawa to set up the CBC.
Claude Gravel of the NDP?
Well, in 1997-98, the Chrétien government cut to the CBC, record cuts, $357 million.
Shame.
So how can you trust Justin? We will properly fund the CBC. We are committed to properly funding the CBC. In Northern Ontario, a lot of communities, all they have is CBC Radio-Canada. And if we take that away from them, they have nothing at all. So we will probably
Please look at the platforms.
Here,
We've been fighting for the CBC right from the start.
I don't know. What have you and your party done to protect the CBC?
Well, I'm a huge fan of CBC. I listen to it almost constantly. You too, Marcus. In business, there are times when we need to tighten our belt, and there are times when we need to spend more. And CBC cannot expect to get more money every year forever. We taxpayers can't afford it, right? So unlimited growth forever, that doesn't make any sense. So I don't know what we've done to hurt you, but I will research it.
Stuart McCall of the Green Party.
Making you sell all the buildings.
What have you and your party done to protect the CBC?
Okay, well, not too much because we're a kind of small party, but nonetheless, I think immediately the cuts that have been proposed by the Harper government be immediately retracted and full funding restored to the CBC. I think certainly I agree with my other candidates here with respect to it may be the only source of news and education around the greater part of Canada, especially in the more remote areas, both in English and French, definitely, because we are a bilingual country, actually a trilingual company if you really want to be technical about it, with the Indigenous peoples. So yes, definitely reinstating funding to the CBC and making sure that it's available all throughout Canada, and especially some of the more regional, like way far away places. I think it also serves as a really good public venue for people to air their opinions and their comments. And I would hate to see that kind of diminished in any way, shape or form, because it is a good way for politicians like us guys here to really understand what's going on in your constituency and in your cities.
Thank you, all candidates, for your answers to all the questions. We're going to have closing summaries in just a moment, but now it's my chance to ask you questions in the audience, and you'll be rewarded with a CBC t-shirt. So raise your hand. This didn't work in the Sudbury ride because people don't raise their hand, they just shout out the answer, and then I get to pick who gets a t-shirt. So we're going to try the raise the hand thing. Be quick. What former Sudbury mayor was once the MP for Nickel Belt? There. Yeah, exactly. No, behind you.
Oh.
Yes. John Rodriguez is correct. You win a t-shirt. Next question. Who held the riding of Nickel Belt before the current MP? Yes, you, sir. White hair, gray hair? Yes.
Great morning.
That is correct. And I see that Mr. Bonin is in the room this evening. It's surprising he didn't get the answer right. Okay.
Oh boy.
How many people ran in the riding of Nickel Belt in the last federal election, 2011? Yes?
5.
5 is correct.
Yeah.
Since Nickel Belt was created in 1953, how many different parties have held the seat?
3.
Yes, go ahead. 2 is correct. Raise your hand so Jan can see you so you can get your t-shirt. All right, this is a very tricky question, but the answer is a single digit, so it's multiple choice. What is the population density of Nickel Belt? So how many people per square kilometer in Nickel Belt? A guess, raise your hand. Go ahead. What? No. Next.
3.
3 is correct.
Wow.
3 people per square kilometer. We're in the metropolis of Chelmsford. Okay, I'm going to give you a quote from a federal leader. You raise your hand when you think you know which federal leader said it. We used to have respect in the world, and for the last 10 years, we became less Canadian on the world scale. You already won a t-shirt. Woman in the back. Pardon me? No. Current leader. Go ahead. Justin Trudeau is correct. T-shirt coming your way. How many more t-shirts do we have? A few more? Okay. Another quote. Raise your hand when you think you know who it is. I believe very strongly that in this world, you have to have values and you have to stand up for your interests, and if you don't do those things, you're not going to get anywhere. At the very back in the green, standing. Incorrect. Raise your hand.
Harper.
Stephen Harper is correct.
Boy.
Front row, black shirt.
I didn't want to win this one.
On the topic of the kneecap. On the topic of the kneecap, which leader said this? It is a false debate meant as a distraction from the real challenges for Canada. Go ahead.
Okay.
Incorrect.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Elizabeth May.
Elizabeth May is correct, and sorry, Kathy. Yeah, I guess I answered the rest. I think the best thing for Canada to do is start playing a positive role for peace.
Okay.
You can't answer anymore. Go ahead. Mulcair is correct. Easy, he's the last guy left. Are there any more t-shirts? Standers at it? I've got two. I've only got one question, but I've got a trick question. What day does advance voting begin? Okay.
October 9th.
October 9th is correct.
Hey.
9th through the 12th. He's already got a t-shirt?
There.
Give it to someone else. And
Make up a question.
on what frequency can you hear CBC on Manitoulin Island? Go ahead. The white hat there.
Yeah, cheater.
Hold on.
I didn't hear you. No, incorrect. Go ahead.
97.9? Yep.
Close. Go ahead.
97.5.
97.5 is the correct answer. 97.5 on Manitoulin. 89.5 in Sault Ste. Marie. 96.1 in Timmins and North Bay. And in Sudbury, we're at almost 100%. We have closing remarks now. In reverse order, 1 minute only, and I'm going to try to hold you to a minute, so got to get to bed. We're going to start with Aino Laminen from the Conservatives.
Our Conservative government has been focused on lowering taxes and balancing the budget while increasing direct benefit payments to individual Canadians, as well as transfer payments to the provinces, including for health, care, and education. A balanced budget is the foundation for the Conservative government's economic plan to protect Canada's financial well-being. If elected, I will work hard to collaborate with all levels of government and all parties to work together towards solutions to all issues for Nickel Belt. So this election is a choice of which government is best to manage and protect the fragile Canadian economy in the face of global economic turmoil. You will choose the most proven leadership for Canada if you cast a ballot for us. We deliver on promises made. So on October 19th, I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Mark Serre of the Liberal Party.
Thanks, Marcus. Thanks to the CBC, and thank you for coming here tonight. I want to be the voice for all the people in Nickel Belt, not just the Liberal MP. I want to share concerns, share collaboration with unions, small business, families, seniors, and tradespeople, professionals. In Parliament, the Liberal caucus, I want to fight for you. I believe in a strong voice for Nickel Belt to see economic growth and jobs in Nickel Belt. The message to Canada and the world that Nickel Belt is open for business. I have the passion, the business experience, the drive, the energy at 48 years old to make a difference and to see results for you in Nickel Belt. I'm a team player. I want to look at developing a new economy on the innovation, research, and business side. I ask the people in Nickel Belt for your confidence on October 19th. I want to make sure that we grow Nickel Belt for future generations to come. Thank you.
Next is Claude Gravel of the NDP.
Premièrement, je voudrais remercier tout le monde qui sont venus ici ce soir. Je pense qu'on était sujet à un très bonne veillée, très bon débat. Friends, we've had an interesting evening thanks to CBC. This election is about changing how we are governed. For too long, we've replaced one Liberal government mired in corruption and scandal with a Conservative government that gets mired in corruption and scandal. Isn't it about time you had a government that delivered what it promised, that was transparent and accountable? We are just one election away from making history and bringing change to Ottawa. On October 19th, I ask for your support. With your help, I can be part of that change because I want to continue to serve you to the best of my ability. Thank you. Merci. Miigwech.
Stuart McCall of the Green Party.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. It's been really fun. I've had a great time up here tonight. I really enjoyed myself. It's great to be debating with such outstanding candidates. But you know what? I really don't think I would like any of them representing me in representing Nickel. Wouldn't you rather have me?
Stole that.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to get. So real action on climate change is what we really need here in Nickel Belt. We've got all kinds of projects that are well underway. Some of them are completed. I've recently installed solar panels on the roof of my house, and I'm powering my farm with it now. And it's made a huge impact on my input costs for farming. There's money to be made in it too, by the way, if you catch it before January 1st, because then the rate drops. However, yeah, a couple of other things.
Just one more thing, please.
One more thing, sorry. Okay. Vote Green on election day, because that's a vote for real change. That's pointing to the direction and the way we need to move in the near future. Thank you for coming.
And I would like to thank all of you for coming and taking an interest in this federal election. I do want to acknowledge the staff from CBC who are here tonight. A technical wizardry by Roger Corriveau. Our producer Dan Lakes is here, reporters Olivia Stefanovic and Eric White, who organized this debate and has been the lead on all our federal election coverage. If you want to follow more, get more information about the candidates, and tell your friends and neighbors, go to our website, cbc.ca/Sudbury. Have a great evening, and I hope to talk to you tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Thank you.